On this episode, we do a virtual cockpit retrofit on a Mark 7 Golf R. Welcome back, everyone. This is probably the most requested video recently that we've had. There's a lot of information that we're going to gather. I've got some notes that I'll go through in a bit, and we're going to go through basically the most important steps of this retrofit because it does involve quite a few different components that we need to go through. Okay, so let's get straight into it. So the virtual cockpit, what is it? The virtual cockpit is VW's term for a digital cluster. Now, this is seen in a lot of the the top spec model in most of VW's lineup. I know the Golf Rs have it, the Passats, the Tiguan's. It's basically that cluster that's one big screen. There's no gauge for the speed and everything else and nothing like that. So just one big screen that is adjustable with many different menus. So as I basically said, there are quite a few components moving in this installation. So whilst cars plugged in, we are talking to Volkswagen online. There's a few moving things happening. So we're going to touch on those components. Okay. So what we have, we'll go through first the difference between so both can be done between a digital new cluster or a used cluster out of a car that's been written off or whatever. So we'll touch on the new clusters first. Now, new clusters can be referred to as virgin clusters with basically 0 kilometers on them. So the coding for that is a little bit different. Obviously, being a new cluster, it has the ability with a normal, any decent scan tool to enter the kilometers in to match the kilometers once it's gone into a new car. Whereas with a used cluster, you can't do that. The kilometers at this moment can't be reset. We can do it with the older style Mark 5, Mark 6 ones and all those other ones. We can reset them, but at the moment we cannot reset these to new, so we can put the kilometers in. So currently, if you're getting a used digital cockpit cluster, that's fine, it can be done. Just ensure it is at a lower kilometers or mileage, as we call it, compared to your car, because what we will need to do is raise the kilometers on that cluster to match your car. It can't be done via coding at this stage. Hopefully soon it can be. So really, from there, the differences really stop. Okay, so what we'll need to do, especially in this case, this was a 2014 and 2015 Mark 7 R. So the CAN bus gateway needed to be upgraded. So if you don't upgrade the CAN bus gateway, you will have some issues with the cluster not displaying everything correctly. Something to do with the fueling of memory was the issue. So in this case, we had to also upgrade the CAN bus gateway. That has its own list of problems when doing it on a Mark 7 R because of component protection, which I'll touch on in a second. So, which CAN bus is required? So, it's basically the new CAN bus gateway out of the newer models. It's Mark 7.5. In this case, we just go for a 3QO. So, a CAN bus gateway starting in 3QO. If you guys want the part number, shoot us a message. We can give you that exact part number. But yeah, a 3KO CAN bus gateway is the one required to get it to work correctly. So that's all. We include that in our retrofit just to make sure it is working 100%. Okay. So now with the CAN bus gateway, what happens when we plug it in? So obviously with anything CAN bus related, we need to pull the coding out of it before we do the swap. So we will pull the coding out of the existing CAN gateway, do the swap, recode it, but you'll also have some other issues with component protection, which I'll touch on in a second. I just want to go through some other things first. What is component protection? What is the Immobilizer lock that are found on all VW since about 2003, 2002, even earlier, I think. So basically, I'll start with the Immobilizer. The Immobilizer is built into the cluster, and that is what does the pairing with the car in regards to ensuring that the car is authorized. The keys match the VIN, the keys match the cluster, the keys match the cluster in most parts. Now, if that is a successful match, it will allow the car to run. So if there isn't a match, you generally get an Immobilizer error or a key not found or key incorrect error or something like that. The car may start for a split second, then it turns off. So that's a general Immobilizer fault that we clear and we configure the car during this retrofit. Now, the other thing is a bit of a new one for VW guys, but on the Audi side, it's been around for a little while, is component protection. Component protection is now being rolled out on more and more modules across the entire platform, especially on VWs. It's been around on the Audis for a little while. It can be found on BCMs, CAN bus gateways, ECUs, and all sorts of other things. A lot of other modules too. So what does that do? So that's similar to the Immobilizer. It does a VIN check basically when it's plugged in. So it talks to all the other modules, and if something's not right or if something's different to what it was set up for, it will essentially throw a error on the dash. And it's a flashing background lighting error that basically says component protection or something along the lines of that, basically saying that there's been a module swapped out and the car isn't a fan. What it will do, it will allow the car to run. It just throws a few faults, but the car will run, so on and so forth. So you can get around with it, but it is quite an annoying prompt to get because you can't see anything. The cluster, your head unit comes up with component protection and a few other things. So it is quite annoying, and it's impossible to live with on a day-to-day basis. Okay. So how do we do that? Obviously, there's just so many notes here on this install, so I've just got some notes in front of me anyway. How do we do this? So it's a combination of using some coding through VCDS, but also using dealer software too. So we have the ability to, we need to go online, talk to VW online to complete a few things and do it that way. So it is a complex process, and it's done actually while the car's on. We do have workshop chargers are hooked up, so we can talk to the car and send information off and get the information back live. So this is all part of the install. This is all what we do. That part of the install I cannot show for some reasons I don't want to go into. So there is that part where between the old cluster coming out and the new cluster going in, there was a good hour or two where basically we are sitting there plugged into the car. Okay. So basically, once we've done the CAN bus coding and the component protection removal, and along with pairing the Immobilizer, the car's essentially running, so we then just recode the car to make sure there's no errors or anything like that to get it all working correctly. And then we finalize the install, put the trim back on and do all of that. In some cases, you'll need to go around the block to it depends if you have reset the power to the car, just to make sure the TPMS is working correctly and a few other things. Also, I think I had an issue with reverse, and I generally find that just taking the car around the block and the reverse camera starts working and things like that. And the last thing that you will need in regards to doing this upgrade properly is FEC codes. Now, in the previous video, I couldn't freaking remember that name, but I've got it now. So it's the FEC codes. What that allows is the extra functionality that comes with these digital clusters. They're considered upgrades according to VW. So without these upgrade codes, you cannot enable these features. So a bit like BMW, how they block CarPlay and a few other things. Same sort of concept with these FEC codes, and they're just added to the car during our install process. Once the FEC codes are enabled and things, this does let you go on and basically enable all those features. But doing this install, you will have issues if you don't have a MIB 2.5 or any other head unit with a optical fiber port or MOST port and cable run across. You will not get any of these extra features because they need to be relayed across. So all these extra features go over this optical high-speed cable that runs from the head unit to the cluster itself. That gives you your nav displays and a bunch of other displays. So if you don't have the higher-end newer style head units, the 2s and 2.5s off memory, if you are interested, if your one's compatible, send me a message and I can confirm that for you. So yeah, you need to have a compatible newer style head unit first before you do this to utilize the whole functionality. If you don't, you're basically going to get the same cluster you have, just same as the analog cluster, just in a digital version. So you're not getting any extra features, nothing else. So weigh that up before you go ahead with this, because that will obviously add a few $1,000s to your install. It's not a straightforward thing. So keep that in mind during this install. So on this MK7 R, we obviously did start this a few weeks ago. We're waiting on the damn CAN bus module to arrive, so it took a little while. So we already ran that MOST cable across, and we just tucked it away behind the head unit. So we just had to yank that out. Behind the screen there. So we just had to yank that out and plug it in when we did the retrofit. So it wasn't too far for us to do. So that's something that was just done during the install process, nice and easy. Now, I'm sorry, but it's obviously a very technical retrofit, and because I get so many questions on it, there was a bit of information I wanted to relay across to everyone. So if anything doesn't make sense, let us know. I can do a follow-up video if required, or on our next install I can go into details about certain questions that we normally had. I'm more than happy to do that. Let me know what you want to see basically, and we're more than happy to cater to it. So yeah, it's a very technical one. I'm hoping I've covered everything off with it as much as I can anyway. So on that, yeah, let's just get straight into the install, and thanks for watching, guys. See ya.